let's get with it. I failed to record today's online meeting for CIS 1605, Internet of Things. It is 9:24. What we did today in the meeting was simply cover the relay assignment that you have to get done as part of your Arduino work this week. So I'd like to do that for you now. I'm going to go ahead and go into one of the classes. In order to get to the assignment. So the assignment that we're talking about today is found in modules. It's in the second chapter. We've got the 3 things you're working on in this chapter. You've got that design a circuit start to finish. That's using Tinkercad Online to do a real quick circuit design. You're working on the SparkFun Tinkerkit exploration, which is those 10 Arduino based projects that you would be building this week. And then the last one is this relays assignment. 2243 is the assignment, and simply you're going to grab the instructions here, and what you're turning in is a real quick video. It could be done in about 6-7 seconds, the video, so it doesn't have to be 15 seconds, but make sure that you get, and I'll explain what you need to get at the time we get to that point. All right. So here's the lab that we're talking about. So this is the relay lab that Cisco gives us, and they walk us through in these kind of, basically it's real quick. I mean, the idea is just plug all these things in, and then you've got to go get your Arduino IDE set up, and then we run the program and we should be done. So the big part will be kind of going through the schematic. So I'm going to go ahead and use this schematic here to show. Okay, so what we have here, actually, I think, does it have, I don't think it has a list of things. Yeah, so, oh, it does. So actually what I'm going to do, I like to do this a different way. And this is, it's perfectly fine to do this, or because it gives you the same thing. Remember that you don't have to have the same color wires. The wires don't matter. But so what we are working on is the it's this SIK, so it's the SparkFun Inventors Kit Experiment Guide, and we're using version 3.3 of this kit. So this is real similar to the material. I'm trying to get where I can get a, there we go. So it's real similar to what we're doing with Tinkerkit. However, there's one piece, this relay piece here, that that we're worried about making sure we can get that done. All right. And so I like to use this one because it gives us that listing of parts and pieces, right? So if I look at these parts, like, so here's the red board, right? And then this is the breadboard, and then I've got 14 jumpers over here, and I've got 2 resistors, right? And then I've got 2 LEDs. And those are the things that come in that SparkFun Tinker Kit, right? So, and remember, when we start about parts, we needed 3 extra little parts, and this is that experiment that needs those 3 extra parts. The first one is going to be the relay here, this little 5 volt relay, okay? And then we need the diode, right, which is this guy here, and then we need the transistor. And I warn you that the transistor here looks a lot like temperature sensor, so you're gonna have to, like, and you can't read it there, but there's writing on it there. You'll have to read the writing and make sure that you're using the right part, because if you're using the temperature sensor on this particular assignment, it won't work at all. You may ruin the temperature sensor as part of that process. So you need to make sure this is the transistor, and the part, either if you buy the part from SparkFun, it'll have an NPN on the side of it. I believe these ones here from Vilros is the one I have mine from. I think it's an MPS, right? But if you read the writing on the side there, you can type that into a browser, and then it'll tell you if it's a transistor or a temperature sensor. Okay, so those are these three pieces here, the transistor, the diode, and the relay. Those are those extra pieces that you needed, and you need those to complete this particular project. All right, so here's the drawing diagram. I like this diagram a little bit better. It's a little bit easier to read. The first thing I like to do is I'd like to put all of these components in, right? So all of these pieces here, I want to put all of these pieces in on the board first, and then I'll do the wiring after that. Okay, so my transistor, I can take my transistor and I spread out the legs a little bit to get them to fit into the holes correctly. So there's my resistor. My LEDs, right? So remember I need a long leg is according to this chart, right? The bent leg is the long leg, right? So somewhere, in this range is fine for that. So get that in there and it's nice and seated. Same thing with this LED here. I didn't follow the red and yellow. I went with C&M colors today, right? So blue and gold. So there we go, right? So those are my two resistors. I would double check. I think I made the long leg in the right one. Yeah, so the long leg is in that upper space. Okay, so there's my two LEDs. And my relay, if you look on the bottom here, there's 3 tabs on one side and 2 tabs on the other. Okay, and if you look at the diagram here, right, there's 1, 2, 3 tabs. So my 3 tabs need to be on this side. And then you also notice that the 2 little legs, right, these 2 legs down here need to be on this side as well. So down on the bottom, of course, to me, like bottom right. Okay, so I'm just going to press that in. Okay, and then later on when we're putting this together, you're going to want to take this and maybe and crack it just a little so you can kind of see where the wires are. So I don't know if you can see that from this picture here, but right there you can see the wire right there, and then I can trace that wire up to, okay, that wire's in 16 and this wire's in 11. And the reason I do that is that I want to make sure that I make the connections at the right places, right? Because if these 2 wires here, if one of these wires ends up on the middle and I'm wiring it according to the diagram, but I miss the connection, then the system won't work. Okay. All right. So the last little piece, well, there's 3 little pieces left, but the diode here. I will point out on the graphic here, the diode has a little black line on it, right? So in my case, I've got the little black line right here. Okay. And then this side doesn't have a black line. So I need to make sure I line that up because, right, a diode has polarity, right? So the diode has polarity, the transistor has polarity, and the LEDs have polarity. So the way we wire them and the way we line them up is critical to them being successfully used. Okay, so the next piece we're going to do is then this transistor here, and this transistor is on the middle leg of the the resistor is on the middle leg of the transistor. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and make sure that that's in the right row, right? So what we're trying to do here is this is in the right row here, right? And over here it just doesn't matter. It needs to just be on a row separate from everything else. Okay, and then the last resistor is going to be if we look at the picture again up here, the picture has us, it's against this wire here, or this leg here, and it goes from there over to the outside rail. Okay, so again, I'm going to do this just to check, right? And I see my wire here is on 16, right? So the leg that I'm trying to get to is on 16. So I'm going to put my resistor on 16 and my resistor on the outside leg of the breadboard, right? Make sure those are seated nice and tight. Okay. All right, good shape there. So now I've got all the little parts and pieces on the board itself. I'm going to start the wiring process, and I'll start the wiring process up here at the top, right? So my first one is to take a wire from the upper leg here and move it and put it over to the outside of the outside rail. So I've got upper leg to outside rail. Okay. These wires start to get really messy in a minute here. And then I've got a wire here off of the resistor that goes over to the red board. So I'm going to put that wire in, but I'm not going to connect it right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that wire in, and I'm just going to leave it out off to the edge for a little bit. Okay, and then the next wire is this wire here. So off the bottom leg I need to come over to the pin on the relay. So if I go and look again, my pin, right, the pin I'm trying to get to is here, so it's in 11. So let's go ahead and push that into 11. I'll push my relay back down, and then I need to come over here to the leg, the bottom leg of the transistor, right? So right here, if we're looking in here, this wire here is on the same row as this wire here. Okay, so that finishes up this little green wire in the picture. Okay, my next wire, we need to connect the diode, right? The diode is connected through here to that same pin on the relay. Okay, so that's going to be this diode here is on number 7, and I'm going to plug it in here to number 11. All right, number 7 and number 11. And that's on my board. Remember, if you put yours on 9 or 8, right, you need to go, you're actually looking to whatever row this leg is in, this wire needs to be in, right? And then whatever pin, wherever this pin is, this wire needs to be with this pin. Okay, so let's move over to the other side of the diode. So from the diode over to this other side, so this pin over here on this side. So I'm going to pick it up. I'm also on 11 on this side as well, so my relay is in good shape there. So I'm going to go from 7 on this side to 11 on this side, and that creates the connection from the relay to the diode. Right? So this connection actually it's going to come in the green wire to the relay, right, and then over to the diode, and then back down here and back over to this side of the relay. Okay. And then my next one, I've got this right here, this wire right here, which is going to be from this upper pin to the inside rail, right? So the upper pin is on that same 11 row, and to the inside rail, anywhere on the inside rail is fine. And I've got that one in place now too. Okay, so that's this wire. Okay. Then I've got these two wires coming out. That's, again, I need to check and make sure where my wires on my relay are. So my wires on my relay are on 15 and 17, right? So I look at them here physically. You can see this one kind of separated out a little bit. Sometimes it goes inside, so you may be on this wire. So that's why we double check those to make sure. Okay, so I'm on 16 or 15 and 17. It looks like, yeah, 15 and 17. So I'm going to go ahead and put my wire for 15 there and my wire for 17. Go ahead and get those two wires in place, and then I'm going to look here. So my wire on 15 is going to go to the long leg, right? So the long leg on the bottom LED, which is there, and this one is going to go, this little right here is on the short one is going to go to the long leg on the first LED. Okay, so these two. Okay, so those two wires there are my connections to my LEDs. Okay, and then on the board here, there's two more wires. They're kind of hidden right here. You see them. They're on the short leg of the LEDs, and they go over here to this inside rail. So I'm going to flip my LEDs over a little bit, and from the short leg to the inside rail, right, and then short leg here to the inside rail. All right. So now what I've got, I've got my this wire and this wire. Right. We did these two wires. We've got the diode wiring. We've got the wiring from the relay over here. This is a power line, and then here's the resistor. Right. So that helps us create the circuit. And then I've got the wire connecting to the transistor, and then the relay, or the resistor through the transistor, and the ground for the transistor. Okay, in this project, right, a relay, think of a relay, it's like a light switch, right, but it's an electrical light switch. So if we send it power, it flips one way, and if we take away power, it flips the other. Okay, so a relay is how we're gonna use the relay to flip these lights back and forth. Without programming the lights, we're gonna program the relay to do what we want the lights to do. And then these other two new parts, these are two new parts. This is a diode, all right, and it allows you to control the flow of electricity in a direction, and then the transistor is also a flow control mechanism for electricity. So these two pieces are helping us manage the power, okay, in this particular setup. So now the last piece of this puzzle, there's two more pieces. The first one is we need to create these jumper wires from this side of the rail where we're pulling in power and ground over to this other side of the rail where we plug stuff into the rail. Okay, so we're going to plug those in now. But one thing I will mention, and we'll do this at the end, is because we have a small jumper board, we don't really need to have these jumpers here. We can move some stuff around to make this work. So what I mean by that is we're bringing power here, and then it's good like up to this resistor, and I'm then taking the power over here to pick up this wire here. But if I were to move this wire over to this power line, it would get the same thing, and I could eliminate the power jumper. Same thing with ground. I could take my ground wire here and move it over to this row, this inside row, which is where the ground is, right here and here, and I could eliminate these jumpers. Okay, so I'm going to build it this way, and then we'll go and move those wires and take the jumper out, and I'll show you that it works as well that way. Okay, the last two wires are going to be our power wire and our ground wire. So let's put so that'll be power, and this will be ground, right? And those are, according to the instructions, right, we're putting them in the outside rail and the inside rail, right? And that's this wire here, inside outside rail and inside rail. So the outside rail, right, is going to be your 5 volts, and your inside rail is going to be your ground. Okay, so the inside. So now I'm going to wire up my board here. So this is my ground wire. So ground wire is going to be the 3rd wire up, and then this is my 5-volt wire, so that's going to be the 5th wire up. Okay, and then the last piece of this puzzle is this orange wire here that we plugged in a long time ago and didn't touch. It needs to go to number 2. Okay, so that's how we're going to use the number 2 pin on the digital side to turn power on and off and send it to the relay. Okay, so I'm going to go through and check, just push down on my devices, make sure that they're all seated nice and good and proper, and there's not any looseness going on. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my Arduino. I left this side plugged in, but I unplugged the PC side. Okay, so you can see I'm getting power, and I've got light, which means this is in the off position. Okay, and that's kind of that's what we want to see, is that one light on at this point in time. Okay, now if we go back to the relay section, or the relay assignment that you have in Netacad, it talks to you right here about this SIC_guide_code 32, right? And they want you to download this and move it over to the to Arduino. And this code is really hard to find, by the way, right? And in fact, what the easiest way to do is to actually just search for SIC guide code. I put the 33 because I searched it earlier. And you will find right here the SIC code download page. Okay, so it's sparkfun.com/SIK code. Okay, and on this you can download this version 3.3 of the code. Okay, I'm gonna show this in the folder, and you essentially, and you can see I did it twice now, but you're gonna right mouse click on the file that you downloaded, and you're going to extract it, right? So extract files, and what you'll end up with is this folder right here, right? Oh, I moved everything out of it, so I'm glad I did download it. I'm gonna do this again. So go ahead and extract the files. Okay, and I should have gotten I hate the way these organize. Let's go to downloads here. So here's my my code, right? And if you see if I open it up, I get another folder named the same exact thing, and then inside of that I've got all these circuits, right? These are really good. Okay, so what you can do now is if you go back to here, okay, I've got my folder that I want to copy, right? And I'm going to go over here to my C drive, and I'm going to go to programs, program files x86, right? So 32-bit applications. I'm going to go into my Arduino folder, and I'm going to go into the examples folder. Okay, and you can see I've already copied this folder into this space. Okay, so what you would do, right? I usually just right mouse click and drag it over to examples, and then I can copy here. Earlier I moved it, so it doesn't matter. But at that point, when you move it over, you'll get this folder in your examples folder. Okay, and we want to see that there. So once you've got that done, you can then, when you fire up your Arduino, when you go to Files and Examples, you will see seeing this missing now. We had this problem earlier. Hold on, I'm going to run the app version of this. There's some weirdness going on with that piece, but by copying it into the examples, it's supposed to load that into your examples on the program. So Files, Examples, and then you see right here I've got my SICK guide code. Okay, now what we're looking for is the relay code, circuit 13. Right, so by doing that, I've now got the sketch for 13. Okay, the other option you have, right, if you've gone out to this the tutorial for the SICK experiment guide for version 3.3, and you're on the relay page, you can do exactly what we've been doing with the Tinker kit, which is copy the code. Right? You can copy the code and move it over. It's the same code. Okay, code's fairly straightforward. There's not a whole lot to it. In fact, this is all there is to it. Okay, is this piece here. So we've got a couple things going on. We're setting a variable called relay pin equals 2. Okay, and what that really is doing, what that code is doing, is it's telling us down here, right? We're gonna set up pin mode for number whatever relay pin is. In this case, it's 2, right? So we're actually assigning 2 as the pin that we're going to use for this process. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set a time delay. So a 1000 millisecond time delay. So instead of having to write delay 1000, delay 1000. I can set whatever the timing is here, and then every time I put time delay down below, it'll run that millisecond time, right? So in this case, delay for 1000, delay for 1000. Okay, so those are just a different way to do some variables. We're actually, and we'll show you how we can use this a little bit later to make things really simple for us. Okay, the next piece is that void setup. So this is our variables up here, and then right here we're setting the pin mode for 2. Right, as an output. So we're setting this wire here, this port here as the output port. And then our loop is really simple. We're just going to digital write to the relay pin high. So that means turn it on, wait for 1000 milliseconds, and then write low, which is turning it off, and wait for 1000 seconds, and then do this over again. Okay. In this case, the power is going to go over here, right? Yeah, through the transistor. I'm trying to, you got to watch the map here, right? So through the transistor, right? And then from the transistor, we have a ground wire, and then this other wire here, this black wire, that's bringing power over to the relay. It's going to go through the diode to the other side of the relay. And then when we tell it to go high and low, it will flip this thing back and forth, right? And when it flips back and forth, it's putting voltage on either one of these wires. And right now, the voltage is on the white wire. And then when I turn it to high, it's going to go on the green wire. And when we do that, right, the lights will swip back and forth. And you'll hear this funny little clicking noise out of the relay to make this happen. Okay, so that's what's going to happen with this code. So when I send this code, right, so we're looking for our transmission lights here. So here's my transmission. And now I've got my lights going back and forth. Okay, and then I'm gonna right, so that's that little clicking sound. So right, and this is on a 1 second delay, right, which is cool, right? So then if I wanted to change that delay, and instead of having to go through the code and figure out where it's at, I can just say, well, I just want it all to be a half a second. Okay, and then I can send new code. So as soon as the code starts, this closes the gap, and now you can see I've sped up, right? So it sounds like a blinker on an older car. Is what it sounds like. And I'm going to go a little bit quicker. Okay, or we can go slower just by changing these the values of these variables. Okay. Ooh, that one's painfully slow, right? Let's change it back to normal. Okay, so here's my normal. All right, now earlier I was talking about this relay pin, right? It's set to pin 2. What happens if I change this to say pin 5, right? What do we think is going to happen? I'll pause for you guys to think about what happens if I change the value of relay pin to 5. What's going to happen with my wiring, my project here, right? What's gonna happen? Okay. Hope you have that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and hit play and let's see what happens. All right, so the transmission went and my light froze. Okay, my program is running, but I'm not getting anything. Okay. Can you think how I would fix the problem? How would I fix the problem? The way I'm going to fix the problem is I'm going to move this pin from 2 to 5, and now my system works again. And that's because this value, right, here, here, and here is where we use it, is telling the Arduino that we're sending the power on 5. Okay? Yes, no, maybe so. All right. So that is the experiment. So if this is not working, what we found is there's a couple things. Your relay's not pushed all the way solid down into the system. These wires, either here, 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 or here, are not in line with the relay pins underneath. Those are the first two things to check. Your diode is backwards, or this here is actually a temperature sensor and not a relay. That's not a transistor. That's another possibility. Another possibility is this resistor here is not plugged into the power side; it's plugged into the ground side. And then lastly, you have your LEDs. They're backwards. Remember, they're polarized, right? So if you have the long leg and the short leg backwards, you will have problems. Okay. So if you're having issues with it, like if you get it to this point and it's not working, you're looking for making sure all the wires are in the right place, making sure that we've got good connections underneath, like we're connected to the right spots, making sure that these are in the right order, making sure this is the right part, making sure this is the right part, and that it's in the right direction as well. And those are going to be your troubleshooting things that you can do for this particular assignment. Okay. The last thing that I want to do before we end this little demonstration today is I told you earlier that I'm going to go ahead and stop this by, I'm going to basically do a new file, right? And I'm just going to send over a blank piece of code so I kill off right? So here's my transmission. It should drop it, right? And it's just going to stay here because this thing is, it's in that position to turn that on. So that's not a big deal. Okay. Now I'm going to go back over here to this drawing, and I mentioned earlier that, right, these are jumper wires and they're just taking power from this row to this row, right? And on this row I only have this one wire, right? So that one wire is this white wire that I have here, right, going to this pin on the relay. If I take this white wire, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to plug it in over here on the rail where we're bringing power from the actual Arduino. Okay, and then the other wire that we have over here is this ground wire way up here on the top, right? So I'm going to take that ground wire and I'm going to put it over on this side where the ground is pulled over, which is this blue wire, right? So ground is pulled over to that point right there. It's hard to see that, but you can see right there, it's kind of pulled to that second rail. Okay, and then I don't need these jumper wires. These are those two bottom wires, so I'm going to pull these jumper wires. Okay, set those off to the side. So what I did was I moved this wire to this row, and I moved this wire to the outside row, and I deleted these two pieces. Okay, so then I want to then send this code back over. So we're looking for the transmission right there, and then we should get, right, so we're back up and running. So I was able to eliminate two wires. I don't really need the jumper wire if I can actually wire over to the rail that has the associated power and ground that I need. Okay. Excuse me, sorry about that. And so that's the relay project. That's the project that you're going to turn in for 2.2.4.3 as part of your assignments this week for the Arduino. I hope that's helpful. I hope you have a great weekend. I will see everybody next Tuesday.